Over the next 12 steps, we're going to unpack a centuries-old pest control system that most Western gardeners have never encountered. From fermented soil preparations and strategic companion planting to little-known straw wrapping techniques and dawn patrol routines, each pillar builds on the last to create a garden that defends itself without a single synthetic chemical. Some of these methods trace back over 1,000 years. Others are backed by university research published just last year. Together, they form what many call a Japanese secret. But is it really a secret or something hiding in plain sight? Number 1, the question at the heart of this investigation: does a true Japanese secret to pest-free gardening actually exist? Or is it a myth shaped by centuries of observation and careful design? The promise of a garden untouched by pests, achieved without a drop of synthetic chemical, holds undeniable appeal. Yet, when researchers at Kyoto University examined why some garden systems endure for generations while others collapse, their 2023 study pointed to a single factor: balance. Not a single trick or hidden ingredient, but a system where every element, from soil to spacing to daily routines, works together. The study found that when gardeners approached pests as a signal of imbalance, rather than an enemy to eradicate, long-term retention of healthy crops increased by up to 30%. This documentary will not chase after miracle cures or one-off hacks. Instead, it will reveal a 12-pillar system rooted in Satoyama landscapes, monastic discipline, and natural farming that creates a self-regulating garden. Each pillar builds on the last, forming an integrated design that quietly outperforms chemical sprays. The so-called secret is not hidden, but woven through history, philosophy, and modern science. What follows is a step-by-step unveiling of that system, beginning with the origins of Japan's living garden tradition. In second place, the historical foundations of Japanese pest management reveal a system refined over more than 1,000 years. The Esatoyama landscape, a patchwork of rice paddies, forest edges, and wetlands, emerged as early as 390 BCE, where palynological records show a sharp spike in cereal pollen on the Kanto plain, marking the deliberate expansion of rice agriculture. Archaeological evidence confirms that these early farmers designed fields to work with, not against, the surrounding environment, using seasonal flooding and native plant borders to disrupt pest life cycles. By the Heian period, temple estates and Buddhist monasteries had codified these practices, with garden logs and treatises describing rare pest outbreaks in alternately flooded paddies and carefully managed woodlands. Edo-era manuals document companion planting and the creation of edge habitats for predators, while a 1909 government survey in the Noto Peninsula found that 73% of villages still practiced winter flooding to protect beneficial insects, resisting the new wave of chemical inputs. Even in the decades after World War II, many Satoyama communities maintained these zero pesticide traditions, as seen in temple archives and field surveys. This unbroken record of resilience, rooted in observation and ecological design, forms the cultural and practical bedrock for the Japanese approach to pest-free gardening. Third on our list, the philosophical core of Japanese pest management begins with the concept of MA, meaning meaningful space. In practice, MA is more than just empty ground between plants. It is a spatial discipline that shapes every decision in the garden. A 2023 Kyoto University study found that when crops are spaced at 60 centimeters apart, airflow improves, humidity drops, and disease incidence can be cut by as much as 30%. This principle is not isolated to rows of vegetables. It extends to the Satoyama model, where gardens are designed as living mosaics, blending cultivated beds with wild edges, forest patches, and water channels. This approach, known as Satoshi Satoyama, treats the garden as a seamless extension of the surrounding ecosystem. Farmers who internalize this balance-first mindset report a 2.5 times higher ratio of beneficial predators 2 pests, a critical threshold for natural control. Surveys conducted among growers who embrace system thinking show they require 55% fewer pesticide sprays than those who treat pests as isolated threats. Underpinning all of these practices is Shizen no Kotowari, the idea that every intervention must respect the inherent order of nature. Rather than reacting to outbreaks, Japanese gardeners design for balance from the start, transforming philosophy into measurable results. This mindset shift is not just a matter of tradition, it is the foundation that allows every other practice, from soil building to observation routines, to work as an integrated, self-regulating system. Number 4. The foundation of pest resilience in Japanese gardens begins beneath the surface, with living, probiotic soil. Unlike chemical approaches that target pests after they appear, Japanese growers focus on building a soil ecosystem that suppresses outbreaks before they start. Bokashi, a fermented blend of rice bran, kitchen scraps, and effective microorganisms, is spread at rates of 5 tons per hectare, introducing dense populations of lactobacillus and other beneficial microbes. Kyoto University's enzymology labs recorded a 37% jump in soil dehydrogenase activity and a 4-fold rise in microbial diversity within a month of Bokashi application. These changes are not cosmetic. High-functioning microbial communities outcompete pathogens, break down pest eggs, and release volatile compounds that deter root-feeding insects. Green manures, like Sesbania, add organic carbon and nitrogen, fueling this underground network and accelerating nutrient cycling. Field trials report a 12% drop in soil nematode populations after a single green manure cycle. This living soil system sets the stage for companion plants and beneficial insects to thrive, creating a biological firewall that makes pest infestations less likely to take hold. In Japanese practice, soil is not just a growth medium, it is the first line of defense and the engine that powers the entire pest-resistant system. Number 5. Companion planting stands as the first visible line of defense in Japanese gardens, replacing chemical sprays with living, strategic neighbors. Shiso, also known as perilla, is interplanted with tomatoes and eggplants, where its aromatic leaves release phenolic compounds that disrupt aphid colonization. Field trials from the University of Tokyo measured a 68% drop in aphid colonies when shiso was sown in alternating rows, while Osaka plots using border strips of chrysanthemum documented a 78% reduction in caterpillar damage, attributed to pyrethrin levels reaching 0.3% in the flower heads. Brassicas such as cabbage and broccoli, when paired with burdock or mustard, suppress lupar and cutworm larvae by up to 55%, thanks to glucosinolates that deter root-feeding pests. These effects are not accidental. Each plant produces secondary metabolites, volatile oils, terpenes, and alkaloids that form an olfactory barrier, confusing pests and signaling predators. The arrangement follows the MA principle, maintaining airflow and sunlight while maximizing chemical defense. Unlike isolated monocultures, this system creates a patchwork of microclimates and scent zones, making it difficult for pest populations to gain a foothold. Companion planting is not a decorative afterthought, but a data-driven, field-tested method that transforms the garden itself into a living shield against infestation. Number 6. Beneficial insects form the garden's living defense force, and in Japan their numbers are no accident. Along the edges of vegetable beds, growers seed hanabatake, flower strips that bloom in a precise seasonal sequence, from early June blossoms to late autumn cosmos. These strips aren't just decorative. In Kyoto's 2024 field trials, ladybird beetle counts more than doubled, rising by 2.1 times in plots with continuous floral resources. Hoverflies, which feed on aphid colonies, increased by 180% when bamboo bundles and grass clumps were left at the field margins as overwintering shelters. The result is a sharp, measurable drop in pest pressure. Tokyo monitoring stations recorded a 60 to 70% reduction in aphid outbreaks during periods when both flowers and predator refuges were present. These habitats are timed to match the life cycles of both pests and their natural enemies, ensuring that predators arrive just as outbreaks would otherwise begin. Unlike chemical sprays that treat pests as isolated threats, this approach builds a self-sustaining army, one that adapts across seasons and requires no purchase inputs. By layering predator habitat over companion planting, Japanese gardens add a crucial tier of biological control, setting the stage for the water and moisture management systems that sustain these communities through the heat of summer. Number 7. Water management stands at the center of Japan's pest-resilient gardens, not as a background detail, but as a deliberate tool for breaking pest cycles. The practice known as mizuhiki, precise soil-level irrigation, interrupts the life cycles of insects and fungi by denying them the wet, stagnant conditions they need to thrive. In a Tokyo field trial, alternating flood and dry periods cut rice stem borer survival by 42%, while fungal germination rates dropped by more than a third. Unlike overhead watering, mizuhiki keeps foliage dry, reducing spore splash and leaf miner outbreaks. Alongside this, the use of straw mulch, rice straw layered 10 to 15 centimeters deep, creates a microclimate at the soil surface. Data from Osaka show that straw mulch moderates temperature swings by up to 4 degrees Celsius, discouraging sudden pest hatches and supporting beneficial ground beetles. On sloped beds in Kyoto, raised bed drainage reduced root rot by 28%, illustrating how water movement shapes the very conditions pests depend on. These hydrological strategies do more than conserve moisture. They engineer the garden's microclimate, making it inhospitable to pests before they appear. This careful control of water and humidity sets the baseline for the daily observation routines that follow, ensuring that pest outbreaks are not just treated, but prevented at their source. Number 9, trap cropping, known in Japanese as otori shokubutsu, represents a tactical shift from fighting pests to outmaneuvering them. Instead of spraying insecticides after an outbreak, Japanese farmers plant sacrificial border crops that lure pests away from the main harvest. Field records from as early as 1912 document the deliberate use of mustard greens around cabbage beds, a practice that led to a 63% reduction in moth larvae on the central crop. In more recent studies, Tokyo vegetable plots bordered with perilla, an aromatic herb, saw a 71% diversion of leaf miner activity onto the perilla leaves, sparing the core vegetables. This bait and switch strategy extends to solanaceous crops as well. Eggplant rows planted on the perimeter of tomato beds have been shown to cut tomato fruit loss from caterpillars by nearly half. The effectiveness of these trap crops depends on accurate observation and timing, as outlined in Meiji-era farm manuals and supported by 2023 field data. By placing decoy plants at the garden's edge, Japanese growers create containment zones, locking pest populations outside the main beds and reducing the need for emergency interventions. This strategic planting forms the front line of a broader system, setting up the conditions for targeted homemade deterrents to reinforce the barrier. In the 10th place, homemade deterrents add a practical, chemical-free shield to the Japanese garden's outer defenses. These preparations, rooted in Satoyama traditions, are applied not as a one-time fix, but as part of a weekly rhythm that reinforces the system's balance. Garlic vinegar spray, or ninikusu, is prepared by steeping crushed garlic in rice vinegar, then diluting the mixture before spraying. In a 2024 Kyoto cucumber study, this simple formula cut aphid numbers by 55% over a single season. Kombu extract, made from simmered seaweed, delivers a mineral film that disrupted mite populations by 38% in Osaka field trials. Wood ash, sifted and mixed with water, suppressed powdery mildew by 29%, while ground shichimi pepper dust, scattered at the base of young plants, repelled beetles and cutworm losses by 44%. Each of these deterrents relies on natural phytochemicals, sulfur compounds, alkaline minerals, and aromatic oils, documented in laboratory assays to disrupt insect feeding and fungal growth. Unlike emergency chemical sprays, these recipes are woven into the gardener's routine, complementing trap crops and observation walks. Their strength lies not in instant eradication, but in steady, layered defense, reinforcing the garden's resilience against pests without breaking ecological harmony. Number 11. Transplant protection reaches its peak with the Wara Mac straw wrap, a method that stands apart for its quiet effectiveness at the most vulnerable moment in a plant's life. In this technique, young seedlings are girdled with a loose collar of rice straw, creating both a physical barrier against cutworms and a microclimate that stabilizes soil moisture. While it might look like a simple folk remedy, the data tell a different story. A 2025 Tokyo trial with Mizuna greens recorded a 92% survival rate for Wara Mac wrapped seedlings, compared to just 76% for those left unprotected. The straw wrap extended soil moisture retention by 18%, giving transplants a crucial buffer against drying winds and sun. But the real advantage comes underground. As the straw decomposes, it fosters colonies of trichoderma fungi, which antagonize Fusarium wilt pathogens. Kyoto's 2023 field study found a 33% reduction in Fusarium infection around Wara Maki collars, with trichoderma counts spiking in the rhizosphere. This technique is rarely seen outside Japan, yet it closes the tactical loop, offering a hands-on, high-impact defense that requires no synthetic inputs, no ongoing labor, and no disruption to the system's ecological balance. For gardeners seeking a true secret weapon against transplant loss, Wara Mac delivers both tradition and measurable results. And finally, in first place, the decisive shift that underpins every pillar of the Japanese pest management system is not a single technique, but a change in mindset, from crisis intervention to balance by design. The data are striking. A Tokyo hybrid farm study in 2023 tracked gardens using the full 12-pillar approach over 3 seasons and recorded a 65% reduction in pest damage, with input costs falling by 45% compared to conventional spray-dependent plots. In Kyoto, an economic analysis found that these gardens not only spent less on chemicals and replacement crops, but also saw higher retention of harvestable produce, translating to greater net returns year after year. A 2021 Nagoya survey captured the social momentum behind this shift, reporting that 82% of growers who adopted the system moved away from emergency spraying altogether, citing both resilience and peace of mind as lasting benefits. This is not just a collection of tactics, it is a worldview. Instead of treating pests as invaders to be eliminated, Japanese gardeners read them as signals of imbalance, prompting adjustments in soil, spacing, or routine observation rather than a rush to chemicals. Over time, this approach builds a self-regulating garden where fewer interventions are needed, and each season becomes less reactive, more resilient. The result is a landscape where healthy crops persist, costs decline, and the garden itself becomes the most reliable form of pest control. The Japanese secret, then, is not a hidden recipe or a miracle product, but a commitment to balance, proven by numbers, sustained by tradition, and now increasingly validated by modern science. Across all these pillars, one truth emerges. Lasting pest resistance is not a product, but a system, rooted in Satoyama landscape design, Shizen Noho natural farming, and a daily dialogue with nature. Pests aren't invaders, they're signals of imbalance. The Japanese approach reframes gardening as continuous stewardship, where prevention is woven into every practice. That's the real secret: balance over battle and design over reaction.